Disney sequels are a complex topic. There's a stigma surrounding sequels in general due to many of them underperforming in comparison to the first film entry. The reasons being are very often an accusation of the infamous cash grabbing. Executing the production of a cinematic project with no further motive than a fat old paycheck easily reflects on the lack of passion that could be felt when simply viewing the product. And that is a fair reason why many sequels fall flat and are forgotten not long after release. Due to Disney's influence on the world of animation, these instances are only made more clear. Throughout the years, we've gotten a list of sequels that's comparable to Trail Mix. Basically, which ones are the M&Ms, which ones are you saving for last, and which ones get chucked. You have Frozen 2, which in my opinion was a genuinely perfect sequel, Toy Story 4, which I thought was just weird, Pocahontas 2, which is the biggest waste of time and resources I've ever seen, Return to Neverland, which I consider a near masterpiece, Cars 3 was way better than it deserved to be, then there's Mulan 2. I've watched this movie way too much, probably even more than the first, I'm sad to say. The first movie was about challenging the norm and doing the right thing. Now Mulan 2 is that, but not that? I mean, it does it right, but also not? Yeah, the more I watch this movie, the more I realize how much is wrong with it. And yet, I always enjoy it. Every time. The original Mulan told a great story of traditional gender roles from the perspective of Chinese culture. After breaking down that wall, the sequel is more focused on what's expected from the royals and the struggles between love and loyalty. Kinda? And apparently the main culprit behind a lot of this conflict is Mushu, the small red dragon who rings gongs. Though not anymore, considering he's been promoted to the afterlife douche who lazes around all day. I honestly never found Mushu all that interesting. Yeah, he's the titular animal side character, but he never really had it for me. After Mulan saved China from the Hun, she's become quite the popular figure throughout China. Both her and Shane have earned great respect and trust from the emperor, and the kids idolize her as an ass-kicking legend, in comparison to the shy gal she was in her first adventure. So a month has flown by since they saved China, and they suspect Shane is just steps away from proposing to Mulan.
Gambling is like playing mahjong with blank tiles. I think I'll go pray.
Ha, it's funny. Because he did that last time. It's funny. Also, I can't show these scenes without mentioning how for the longest time, I remembered none of the musical scores in this movie. There's, what, 4 or 5? Aside from one where I don't even remember the lyrics by heart, none of the songs really stood out. After rewatching recently, a couple of the songs actually served its purpose well. The point of many Disney musical numbers is plot relevance and character foundation, using catchy eye-candy-filled songs and visuals to share our characters' aspects, personalities, and goals, many of which we're already familiar with. This movie serves that purpose, it's just unfortunate that we aren't really given all that big a reason to stay engaged. Make a Man Out of You is one of the most impactful songs in the Disney collection with its mix of plot relevance and deeper comparisons to Mulan's situation. We're already engaged with a great story with clear conflicts, and Mulan 2 just doesn't have the same effect. Therefore, what reason do we have to tune in? Though one of my favorite scenes is where Shane proposes to Mulan. Watching this movie more than once actually makes it better. We see our characters struggle with the idea of romance because their duty is to their country, only choosing to marry for peace between kingdoms. While Mulan, on the other hand, is fortunate enough to marry the person she loves. I'll go into greater lengths on how this is the most important aspect of the movie later on. News of the engagement spread far and wide across the kingdom, but there's a catch. Since Mulan is getting married, Mushu will lose his position as guardian, so he can kiss his days of slacking and spiritual mistreatment goodbye. I mean, I know the spirits weren't all that great to Mushu in the first movie, but considering what we're about to see, Mushu is no better.
Will it be a big wedding?
Absolutely.
Oh no.
Children?
As many as possible.
Oof, Shane, you're a busy man. This scene makes it clear as day that our duo is either not ready for the next step as they seem, or have a lot to establish before they take that big step. And as much as Mushu didn't want to come between the two and just let them be happy, he uses these moments to hatch a plan to try and get them to split. There are several Disney villains I can name who are not this evil. Not long after, Shane and Mulan are called by the Emperor for a really important mission. They have to escort the Emperor's 3 daughters to a neighboring kingdom to marry their lord's sons and seal an alliance. Doing so will avoid any violent conflict. Sounds like a pretty big deal, right? Well, the movie itself doesn't actually care. At least I don't really get that impression. For such a serious mission, it's in no way approached similar to how the first movie did. It had its humorous and lighter moments, but still kept a dark tone to make it clear as day that they're in a war and that their training is a big deal. But here, it's just all lighthearted fun through almost every step, even though failure could potentially end in a war. Yeah. And they bring in the 3 goons from the previous movie to act as guards. This practically screams that Disney did not have any resources or chose not to use them. They just had to bring back characters we're already familiar with. I know I can't complain much because Return to Neverland did the exact same thing, but the story is delivered in such a lackluster and light attitude that it doesn't even take itself seriously enough to the point where I can't help but sigh at the blatant recycle of characters. At least Return to Neverland told a dark and serious story with tones to match. Then the 3 goons sang about how they need to get some bitches. jokes.
I just wanted a girl who likes to laugh
Well, that's nice.
and thinks I'm a god.
You know, I actually kinda get it.
Again, I know they didn't have a lot of characters to work with, and the conflict in the movie isn't that well set up, but the setup to the main focus of the movie is actually really well done. This movie focuses on relationships and how important it is to follow your heart. Mulan and Shane, 3 princesses, 3 guards. They did an excellent job setting this up. And on a similar note, I'm not gonna lie, the relationships between the guards and the girls, I love it. Right when I was in the middle of writing this section of the script, I ended up changing my stance on this topic. I was gonna claim that the relationships between the guards and girls was lazy and mostly poorly set up. I take that back. The song from earlier in the film made it clear what they were looking for in a woman, and that they've tried hard to find it, as well as being a vague continuation of the song from the first movie. Also, I think I'll drop this here before I forget, but one of the most notable parts of this movie is the fading effects. It has a lot. Sometimes used simply, sometimes to fit a certain shape for a transition, and sometimes in a very awkward way that doesn't even seem like it fits whatsoever. The fade effect is a simple and effective way to smoothly transition scenes, and it just sucks that it feels like this movie heavily relied on it. Though I will balance this out with the fact that the movie is actually really funny, like when Shane was so pissed that the film's budget visually affected him, or this scene with Mushu.
Just make sure nothing wakes him up.
You can count on me.
Not to mention this scene.
But I think you and Princess with...
Anyway, the guys have a good opportunity for romance when they have plenty of time to spend with the princesses. Sure, Yao and Mei don't have a lot in common, Shenpo and Su don't have a lot of time spent together or that strong of chemistry, Ting Ting and Ling, actually, they're just fine. Ling wasn't looking for a lot in a woman, just someone that understands his sense of humor. Throughout their interactions, we see Ting was holding herself back for whatever reason. Even after the other girls expressed their feelings and they all shared the same musical number, she remained loyal to her duties and the mission. But eventually she broke and revealed to us that she not only has the perfect personality to match Ling's, but enjoys the same jokes. This is an excellent example of how you want to execute a relationship with limited time and resources. This is also a good time to mention that the princess's song was the only one I remembered for the longest time, and I don't understand it. They want to be like other girls. Do they mean choosing their own partners? Cause it was heavily implied that marriage for the sake of duty was the common reason amongst the nation. Do they mean they want to be like normal girls? That would make the most sense, but we get very little to establish what exactly a normal girl is. Hell, we get more information about what royalty is throughout the entire movie. When they tell us they don't want to be held back by restrictions of royalty, all we have to work on are examples that they give in the song, not any actual scenes throughout the movie. But of course, we can't talk about relationships without mentioning the duo themselves. This is definitely the most awkward part of the movie. These two have an interesting relationship dynamic, with Mushu being the primary instigator of such. And yeah, that's it. That's the one pry about this movie that I can't get over. Mushu is unredeemable in this film, actively trying to ruin their relationship for his selfish gains. Could he just not be there? Wait, actually, yeah, Mushu had no reason to be in this movie. Shane and Mulan could have still had their moments and quarrels without being instigated by Mushu. It was already made clear early on that they had a lot to discuss regarding their plans for marriage and the future. This all could have happened naturally. Mushu and the spirits did not need to be in this movie. I've seen people claim that Mulan and Shane's bickering is badly written. I disagree. Their relationship was the most well done aspect of this film. They got engaged after a few months of knowing each other, in a day and age where even knowing your fiance is considered a rarity. Because of this, the two of them had more room to accept what they love about each other and find ways to work around their disagreements. You don't get that with an arranged marriage. Mulan and Shane don't have to face that reality, and are instead met with the reality of moving forward too fast and the difficulties that come from that. This is met with a direct comparison of the princesses not being fortunate enough to follow that same path, but Mulan, being the freedom fighter that she is, can't hold herself back from wanting to help them. She empowered herself from doing the right thing by serving in battle in her father's place. She met the one she loved as a result. It's only right that she shares this view and empower others that need it. Now we have to talk about the most beautiful scene in the movie. Mulan and Shane realize how different they are and decide to just finish the mission and cancel the wedding. The guilt eats away at Mushu, and he confesses to Mulan that he's been the one coming between them. Before Mulan can make it up to Shane, they get ambushed by bandits. While saving a princess, a bandit cuts a bridge and puts the two in peril. What the movie failed to do the whole time greatly succeeds here. A dark area with dramatic lighting to fill a sense of hopelessness and doom. Mulan's emotions to help seal it. Her reaction when Shane chooses to let herself go. After Mulan had just learned the truth, she loses the one she loves. The gloominess of the rain and the sadness brought from everyone. The scene where Mulan drives the blade into the dirt, serving as a callback to Shane and his father from the first movie. How can a movie so mid have a scene so beautifully done? But even with all of that, Mulan will not let this mission go uncompleted.
Yo, bro, the host died.
Oh shit, I'm gonna have to kill you.
Nah, man, I'll be the bitch.
I bet you can have my eldest. That's right, you're spreading your legs to that.
Also, Shang is alive and just fine. He somehow survived that and his horse managed to find him. Cool. So they try and go through with a marriage for one son, even though they were promised a marriage for 3. Shane comes in, Mushu saves the day. It's honestly really boring. It's the best way they could have closed things off, but it's just not the most impactful thing in the world. So everyone gets a bitch. Except this guy. 0 bitches. They head back home and Mushu is prepared to take responsibility for his actions and go back to being a lowly doormat. Oh wait, Shane decides to combine their ancestors, so Mushu keeps his place as guardian and goes back to being a douche? Yeah, he literally did not need to be in this movie. Mulan 2 is one of the most mediocre movies I've ever enjoyed. While there are important aspects that were handled well, it suffers from simply not knowing how it wants to handle itself. I wouldn't necessarily call it a cash grab, I genuinely think they were coming from a place of true artistic merit, but the main issue with this film is that when they combine a lot of these aspects together, it fits like a puzzle that has a mix of right and wrong pieces fitting together. The foundation of a serious conflict that wasn't well executed, relationships with mixed results set up in a very good fashion, a complex relationship faced with its own conflict and mediocre threat, a beautiful scene of brilliantly executed grief only to be thrown away less than 5 minutes later, and a conclusion they really did not need to try all that hard for. I will say, at least they set themselves up for a fitting climax that didn't require a lot of work. This movie has a lot wrong with it, but it also has just enough enjoyable aspects that keep me engaged. I will always enjoy this movie for how simple and fun it is. A very good kind of sit back and just accept it for what it is, but at the same time enjoy it for what it offers. And that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.